This video was brought to you by our channel TLDR Business. When sanctions were first announced in response to Putin's invasion of Ukraine, analysts and politicians alike predicted that they would cripple Russia's economy. The media described them as unprecedented, and the White House itself claimed in March that the sanctions would, quote, crush the Russian economy. However, 6 months on, it's still not entirely clear what impact sanctions have had on the Russian economy, and Western media is filled with apparently contradictory articles, with some suggesting that Russia's economy is booming and others suggesting it's already collapsed. So in this video, we're going to do our best to appraise the Russian economy by first looking at how it's coped with the sanctions imposed on it so far, and then looking at how it might fare in the future. So the first thing to say here is that no one knows precisely how the Russian economy is performing because the Russian authorities stopped publishing much of their economic data after the war in Ukraine kicked off. Moscow's updates regarding Russia's economy are increasingly cherry-picked, only including favourable metrics and excluding unflattering ones. For example, the Kremlin no longer publishes any foreign trade data, which prior to the war were updated on a monthly basis. Similarly, major companies no longer publish financial statements, and the central bank no longer publishes monetary-based data or loan origination data. Even Rosaviatsia, the Federal Air Transport Agency, has abruptly ceased publishing data on air travel passenger volumes, presumably because an uncomfortably large number of people have left Russia since the war began. This is perhaps the main reason that Western coverage on the topic has been so confusing. No one knows for sure what's happening in Russia because their authorities have stopped publishing accurate data, so take everything with a pinch of salt. Nonetheless, the limited data available does suggest that, so far, while sanctions have definitely hurt the Russian economy, they haven't crippled it. We should be clear here, we're not saying the Russian economy is performing brilliantly, as Putin claims, or that it's some sort of economic miracle. We're just saying that, while things don't look great, it's not a total catastrophe. Anyway, as we've detailed in a previous video, Russia has benefited from the recent spike in oil and gas prices, and has made more money from energy exports than it did last year. According to a report by the Centre for Research on Energy and Clean Air, a research organisation based in Helsinki, Russia sold about 93 billion euros worth of energy exports in the first 100 days of the invasion, an all-time record and about 20% more than during the same period last year. This translates to about 930 million euros per day, nearly 100 million euros more than the estimated 840 million euros that Russia is spending per day on the invasion. Now, while official data might overstate the true strength of the ruble, which has actually been driven by government-imposed capital controls, the continued demand for Russian exports has, nonetheless, pushed the value of the ruble up from its post-invasion low. A combination of a relatively strong ruble and sharp interest rate hikes by the Russian central bank have apparently brought inflation down to manageable levels. Inflation hit 18% in April, in large part because consumer demand has held up relatively well. Goldman Sachs' Current Activity Indicator, a real-time measure of economic activity, actually suggests that Russian consumer confidence is now above that of Germany or the US. Similarly, electricity consumption and the number of railway loadings, two measures often used as proxies for economic activity where data is lacking, are both holding up. Anyway, in response to the spike in inflation, the Russian central bank raised rates to an all-time high of 20% back in March. Inflation has started to slowly come down and is now at about 15%, which is why the central bank has since lowered rates, which are now sitting at 8%. Nonetheless, whilst inflation might be coming down, a combination of sanctions, reduced confidence, and that massive 20% interest rate hike mentioned earlier mean that Russia is almost definitely on track for a recession this year. Again, because Russia have stopped publishing reliable data, there's a fair bit of disagreement to the magnitude of the coming recession. To give a quick survey of the most credible forecast, the latest IMF forecast predicts a 6% recession in 2022, followed by a further 3.5% recession in 2023. The World Bank forecasts an 8.9% recession in 2022, followed by a further 2% in 2023. And Fitch forecasts a 12.5% recession in 2022, followed by a 1% recession in 2023. While they're more optimistic, even Russia's own central bank is predicting a contraction. In early August, they warned Russian consumers that things would get worse in the second half of 2022, forecasting a 4 to 6 point recession in 2022 and then a 1 to 4 point recession in 2023. Anyway, you get the idea. While Russia's economy has so far avoided collapse, it's not in great nick either. However, in the future, things are likely to get worse. While no one knows the precise numbers because Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency stopped publishing data on air traffic volumes, it's clear that Russia has suffered a serious exodus of human capital. Analysis by researchers at Yale University estimates that 500,000 Russians have left the country since the invasion of Ukraine began. Over 1,000 companies have curtailed operations in the country, and foreign investment will probably continue to fall. And while Russian businesses have so far been able to rely on stockpiles, sanctions on advanced technology, especially microchips, could soon make things really difficult. Despite the fact that the US only accounts for about 15% of microchip production, the so-called Foreign Direct Product Rule, which bans the export of any technology made using American inputs or software, means that chip exports to Russia are down 90% year on year, at least according to the US. A lack of high-tech kit has hampered Russia's 5G rollout, and chip shortages will affect everything from data center expansion all the way through to Russia's new Arctic drilling plans. To make matters worse for Putin, if Europe weans itself off Russian gas and oil prices come down from their historic highs, Russia will lose a significant fraction of those foreign reserves which has kept its economy afloat so far. Anyway, you get the idea. While Russia's economy has fared better than some expected so far, things don't look good in the future, unless something big changes. Anyway, after this video, you might find yourself asking questions about economics, perhaps even business too. Well, luckily for you, last week we launched a brand new TLDR channel, all about business and how it interacts with politics, people and society. We have 4 videos on the channel at the moment, including a deep dive into if TikTok is a Chinese propaganda tool, and if Trump was right to try and ban them, as well as a video on the lawsuits between Musk and Twitter, and the secret economics of porn, where we find out about the 2 household names who control the whole industry.